What's one thing that top billers do in Loxo that others don't?
Any updates? I didn't have any. When I did have some, I had to just send all of that over manually and give them an update. And over time, that turns out to be a lot. And it's not really a good candidate experience if you constantly have to reach out, ask for updates. It just makes the experience worse. You can leverage automations to help with that a little bit. The first place where I see those being added is to the
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome back to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we've got a great Tactical Tuesday episode ahead of us, but before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders, the others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday like today for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. And occasionally you get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. As a reminder, if you like the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, today's Tactical Tuesday. What's one thing that top billers do in Loxo that others don't? We get that question a lot. But the thing is, there isn't just one thing that separates top billers from the rest of the pack. There are a handful of things that they do differently. So for the next few weeks, Vivien and I are going to do a mini series where we cover one of those items per week and equip you with the knowledge needed so that you can start taking these same things and putting them into practice in your day-to-day. So with that, let's get into it with your favorite Tactical Tuesday co-host, Vivien. Hello, friend. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, as we were chatting before this. Fun week. So, week number 1 of our mini-series. What are things that top billers are doing in Loxo that many others aren't? I haven't even teed up what that first thing is in the intro because I wanted to let you share what you think this first thing is.
It's email automations.
Email automation. Vivien, that sounds so simple. What do you mean email automation?
So a lot of times I actually do see Loxo users use email automations, but mainly for the applied stage to have an email automation that says, hey, thanks so much for applying. Somebody from our team is going to be in touch over the next couple of days. It really depends on the volume and number of applicants. And then they also set one up for the rejected stage, especially if it's like, we just want to let you know you're out of the process or whatever. So those are the very basic ones that a lot of customers are actually using. But the other email automations that I am talking about are the extra step, the white glove that recruiters can provide to candidates to enhance their overall candidate experience. And that is at 2 specific stages. And I have 2 bonus ones for a total of 4. So okay. I don't know if you're ready, but we can dive right into them.
Yeah, let's do it. Are we going to go in order of where? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we're going to go in order. So kind of to give a little bit of background, a lot of times when I was recruiting, candidates were coming to me and were like, any updates. And I didn't have any. And when I did have some, I had to just send all of that over manually and give them an update. And over time, that turns out to be a lot. And it's not really a good candidate experience if you constantly have to reach out, ask for updates. It just makes the experience worse. So you can leverage automations to help with that a little bit. So the first place where I see those being added is to the submitted or CV send stage. So submitted, that's typically what's being used in the US. CV send is what's being used in the UK and Europe. And it's basically you are submitting the candidate over to the hiring manager. You have presented the candidate. And the email automation attached to that stage is to let the candidate know, hey, I have officially submitted you. And the email automation should be customized for the job to say, hey, I typically meet with them on Thursdays and we go through the candidates, or this is kind of the time frame to expect to hear some kind of update and give them an ETA and be honest about it, And so I would usually include a little blurb of if you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm ghosting you, it's I just don't have any updates, but for peace of mind, if you just want to reach out and ask me for an update, please do so. More than happy to tell you that there's currently no update. Otherwise, I promise I will let you know. And then also do that. But that way you communicate, because the job search process and working with recruiters, it's so ambiguous. candidates have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. So think back, everybody, when you applied for jobs before you ever became a recruiter, there was so much ambiguity, there were no updates. And so just adding that, it makes for such a different candidate experience. And candidates sometimes turn into hiring managers that need a recruiter. Who are they going to think of? The one they had a really great candidate experience with. So
Yeah. Okay. I like that transparency because it's like you said, it's always, what's the expectation? They're going to think about the analogy you've used before, like, why is the plane delayed? We've talked about that before, but yeah, exactly where it is. So they have a sense for, okay, like, it's Monday. Vivien just said she meets with them on Thursday. So I'll hear from Thursday versus them itching, sweating, getting really antsy about it. So, okay. I like that one. That makes sense. That's a good one. What's next?
The next one is when they move into the interviewing stage. As soon as you find out from the hiring manager that they want to interview them, you can just move them into the interviewing stage. An email automation goes out, says, hey, congratulations, the hiring manager absolutely loved you. They would love to set up a meeting with you to interview you via Zoom or whatever. Can you send me your availability for like the next week or so, like within the next 7 days? You can just say that, and they will obviously know, excluding weekends. But that way it can be an email automation that you can send on Friday or on Monday. It doesn't really matter. And that way they get that update. You don't have to manually update them and let them know, hey, they're ready for an interview. When can you meet? And as we talked about before, ideally you already have the hiring manager's availability because you have access to their calendar, or they gave you a top secret Calendly link where you can see their availability. So as soon as you have that, you can just schedule it and all will be well.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So good. So easy. So quick and effective versus having to do them all one off. Not only they get good news, but you've already got the interview scheduled as well after this quick send. So, okay, that's a good one. I see why that's a pro one. What are these two secret ones now?
The two bonuses. All right. So the first one is like half a bonus that you can use. Not really, but it just depends on the recruiter's workflow and how they do things. So what they can do is, and I've seen two things actually being done. One is when they want to schedule a conversation with a candidate and they're moving them into screening. This is where then they can have an email automation being like, hey, thanks so much for saying that you're interested and whatnot. Would love to set up a call with you. Here's my Calendly link. Schedule something that works best for you, kind of a thing. The reason why it's like a little bit of like a half one, typically the recruiter would just respond in that thread, that conversation, wherever that was, whether that was via email or on any kind of social media platform. And so that's typically how it's being done. But I have seen some just move them into that one and send a separate email with all of the instructions on that one. That's the first half. The second half of that one is after you have had the call and you're getting ready to send them over to the hiring manager, an email that automatically asks for them to send over their resume. Just like, hey, quick reminder, make sure you send me the resume. I meet with the hiring managers on XYZ date. Would love to pitch you by then. And, just a little bit of transparency. So it's a little bit of like a half tip, but, depends on the workflow.
It's using automation though to do things that you would have been doing manually or it's saving time. It's something that, you're going to be doing not in mass, but multiple times over the course of a job. Yeah. Let automation do what automation does best.
And it's fairly repetitive. So even if you don't want to set up an email automation, have a template and then just update whatever needs to be updated in that particular template. But that way you're not constantly writing from scratch, because it does drain your brain juice, as I like to call it. And it is a little bit of extra time when you constantly have to type up the same thing. It gets really repetitive and boring. Whatever you can kind of eliminate that is very repetitive and boring, it's always a win.
Yep, I like it. Okay, and this final one.
Bonus number 2 is post-placement. So they have accepted the offer. This is where you can have an email automation to say, hey, congratulations, so excited for you. Here's kind of like typically what happens in terms of next steps. So if that is, hey, they're going to initiate a background check, they're going to send you the onboarding paperwork, whatever it might be, you always want to have that custom to that particular one. And that way you don't have to send it manually. It's just a template. And a bonus and a little bit of a teaser for next week's episode is enroll them into an outreach campaign that checks in with them post-placement. And kind of a little bit of a sneak peek is, it turns out that a lot of recruiters get new business by staying in touch with the hiring managers where they made a placement, as well as the candidates that end up getting promoted and need a recruiter. And so it's this like little bit of like checking in after the placement, that really helps with making sure you're top of mind. And if they ever need a recruiter, they've had a really great candidate experience with you. You kept on giving them updates without having to harass you about updates. I hate asking for updates. I feel like I'm harassing and I'm bothering, and it's just not a good experience. So if you can automate offering that to candidates, whenever they need a recruiter, they're going to think of you.
Yeah. It's almost like recruiting's a relationship business. Who would have thought?
I know. Breaking news.
Coming up at 11, how recruiters leverage relationships. Love it. These are good.
Dun.
Yeah, these are, I like these. It's, how to use automation intelligently. But yeah, again, it's like, what are things that they aren't always necessarily groundbreaking, but yeah, what separates some of the top billers from just the average day-to-day user? So I like this tip. I'm excited for this series. I'm glad that we decided to push into it. So I know you give a sneak peek for next week. Any other parting thoughts before we head out?
Just that this is gonna, if you implement this and if you really follow through with what we're gonna talk about next week, you can increase your business without having to go out and search and do all the business development shenanigans. It's really expensive and time consuming to get new business. If you can tap into business you've already had and kind of like bring it back to life after a while, that's the easiest way to do it. They already know you. They've had a great experience with you. You don't have to go through like the negotiations, the contracts, convincing them, all that fun stuff. They're primed and ready to go. You just need to catch them at the right time. And the easiest kind of way to reach out is under the pretext of like, hey, how's that new hire going that I placed with you 2 months ago?
I love it. Okay. Well, I can't wait for that. Cool. Well, as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. If you like this episode, but you're not sure where to go next, we do have a link to a similar one. You can find that in the show notes, which is in the description of your favorite podcasting platform, as well as on our website. Full video episodes are available on YouTube. If you ever have questions, send them our way, podcast@loxo.co. And lastly, if you did enjoy this episode, please make sure to leave us a quick rating, your podcast streaming platform. It takes you 3 seconds, but it's going to help other recruiters like you to find us. So, all right, everyone, that's the show. That was part 1 of, not sure how many parts to the series there will be, but for Tactical Tuesday with Vivien. Until next time, bye, y'all.